There we go. Is that live? Hey, YouTubers. Hey, we're recording the Home Server Show podcast. We're going to be talking about Eero, and we're going to be talking about some Echo Dot. We're going to talk about some surveillance cameras, some like 3K resolution surveillance cameras. But remember, we record this podcast on video so we can broadcast it on audio. So this is going to be about an hour long. If you want to find out more about stuff that we're talking about right here, please go to homeservershow.com/forums. And also, this YouTube channel is a great place to start. Subscribe and then hit that little button up there that lists all the videos. You definitely want to take a look at all of those. All right, so here we go. We'll start the audio podcast. My phone's back alive. Is there anything that I missed? Thankfully not. All right, here we go. March 9. This is the Home Server Show podcast, episode number 297, recorded on March the 9th, 2016. Welcome back to the Home Server Show. I'm your host, David McCabe. Hey, I'm joined again by Mr. Mike Fauché. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me on again.
You're welcome. And off of his deathbed, Mr. Jim Collison, back from the slopes, feeling good, feeling refreshed, ready to podcast again.
Yeah, good. It's good to be back, Dave. Thanks for filling in for me 2 weeks ago when I was. You asked, I said yes, and then about 30 minutes before the podcast, I was like, "Dude, I'm going to bed." So I appreciate it. I needed a sick day, so thanks.
That's all right. It's okay to call in every once in a while. Lord knows that I do it a lot. So, but hey, this is gonna be a great show. I'm glad you tuned in. I hope you're downloading on audio. Subscribe to this podcast and many more that you find on the Geeks Network, thegeeksnetwork.com. Go out there and look at some of those podcasts and record those. You know, I'm going to highlight one, and it's a Mac and Apple podcast, but I really like it. Open Mic Night. This guy has been through the ringer and back with a broken leg, a broken phone. No, he didn't break it, but he almost did. Go back and listen to his last podcast where he talks about how he lost his iPhone. They found it foolishly. They went looking for it. It didn't get gunned down in the process. But great show like that on the Geeks Network, thegeeksnetwork.com. You're going to find tons of good podcasts out there. I promise. I promise you. All right, today we're going to be talking about. I'm going to follow up a little bit about Eero. I know Mike's probably got some questions for me, and then we're going to talk about Mike and we talked about some surveillance cameras a couple of weeks ago, and little did he know I ordered one each soon after that podcast, and I have them up and running. Not here. I can't show them to you right now, but I do have them up and running, and we'll talk about those, and we'll kind of compare some notes. Little things here and there, but we want to start by reminding you, because we never know when we're going to podcast again, what's happening, Jim. March 31st. It happens every year. You're kind of my guy on this one. This is your thing. Crickets.
I don't know. March 31st. I'm your guy. I should know what you're talking about.
It's World.
Oh, it's World Backup Day. That's right.
Day. They always put it right before April Fool's Day.
That's
you
right.
Shouldn't fool around with your data.
No, see, I thought that was
every day World Backup Day.
Every day should be World Backup Day. I actually thought I'd gotten a note from Acronis today that said, "Hey, it's in celebration of World Backup Day," and I thought, "Oh crap, I missed it." I thought that was the 1st of March. So when you said that, I was like, "Oh."
Well, you know, we kind of make light of it because
yeah,
if you listen to this show, you're backing up. You live for backups, you live for RAID, you live for that kind of stuff, cloud stuff. So we kind of say it in jest, but there's some cool stats out there. If you go to worldbackupday.com, there'll be the URL in the show notes about some things. 30% of people have never backed up. 130
higher than that. That's conservative.
Yeah, I would say like 85%.
That's conservative. Yeah.
113 phones lost every minute. 29% of disasters are caused by accident. Jim, I know you know that one.
Mm-hmm.
We do delete our own stuff, and
Oh
then
yeah,
we
yeah.
blame the technology.
As many as backups as I've had before, I've deleted stuff twice from the same spot. You're like, oh, what am I thinking?
Yeah, I know you're looking at it. You're like, delete. Oh, why'd I
It
do that?
happened to be the
Delete.
wife's thing too. That the big one that I deleted the last time and then lost it on the home server. And she was like, "Are you serious, dude? You have a podcast about home server and backups, and you
Storage.
seriously lost something?" You jacked
Never gonna live that one down. I've had the video on Fauché this whole time. I don't know why. We're watching Mike pick his nose, and I'm.
That's why it's an audio podcast.
That's right. Thank God it's an audio podcast. World Backup Day. Back your stuff up. Listen to the podcast.
Yeah, real quick, Dave. Let's like review home server show. Right, we've all been home servers for the longest time, and yet today, I have to admit, no home server backups going on. So it's all Acronis, and it's CrashPlan. That's kind of where I've landed when we talk about backup. And Acronis has saved my bacon a couple times on when I'm flopping, when changing out drives. And
Very
so
nice.
yeah, that's kind of where I've landed. I've got two. I have 2012 and 2016 running. Nah, it's just too much work with the backups on those home server ones. I'm not doing it at all. So, Mike, what have you found? Say it again.
I said you're a late adopter.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We've all flopped. I know people who are now going on those server technologies, and I'm flopping back to Acronis and CrashPlan.
Yeah, I actually have been on Acronis even while I was on home server. Because as if you pick that system or two that's real critical to you, and you go a couple different directions, and that's what I've been doing. I've been doing Acronis for, I remember version like 2020, God, before 2010. It's been a long time.
Acronis has been really aggressive. It's like they have new life breathed into them, and have been aggressive. Updates every year, new branding. They've got, although I don't know if I'd use their cloud backup, but certainly Acronis. I do Acronis to the Drobo, and it works great. I mean, it's what makes my Drobo usable from that, from a backup standpoint. Acronis kind of changes it and makes it usable.
You're using it as a destination?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It has no problems with any destinations. I mean, that's one. It just really does it. Just works.
Yeah, it's pretty robust. I do the same thing. I have a destination to my QNAP, and I have a destination to another server, and it works out well for me. I also have most of my critical systems have a backup drive in them that I don't use for anything but backup. And that's mainly because I'm impatient. So if I have a problem, it's much quicker for me to restore from the internal backup than it is to pull it off the NAS. So I go both directions just because you can.
Yeah.
I've got you beat. I still remember back probably 04, 05, 2004, 2005 era. A buddy of mine in Texas started our own consulting business. We kind of left the big companies and went down and worked for ourselves. We chose Acronis. They were just a fledgling little company at that point. You could only buy the licenses direct from them, and we backed our customers up, to external drives, and that's how we did it. So way back in the day.
Rich O'Neill was always a big fan of Acronis. He could make that thing dance 7 ways to Sunday. He used all the tools. He could, he was just a big fan of Acronis. And I would say, during our home server days, 2008, 2009, 2010, I really felt like Acronis walked away from their own software. Kind of, it was there. It wasn't very good. It was, the UI was kind of kludgy. Things were all over the place. And, I just kind of felt like, I don't know. And we used a lot of home server stuff, but man, they have really come back. The 2011 versions on have been dynamite. So
good.
It's been good to come back. If you're listening and you haven't taken a good look at Acronis, and I think, Mike, I think their licensing is actually really decent and fair. I mean, it's one of those kinds of things. They're not out to gouge you, and you can get deals every year to get 3 PCs for $50-$60, something like that.
Yeah, actually, you could get them cheaper than that. I've seen it as low as like 30-something for 3.
Upgrades with the upgrades for sure are cheaper. Yeah, $29.95 or something.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I guess it depends on the price you put on your data, but to me, it's real reasonable, and it's like you mentioned, it's rock solid.
Yeah.
To get 3 PCs will usually cover most people, because you don't usually have to back everything up. At least that's not the trend anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They have gotten smarter with their client version, though. If you can't buy one PC and load it on 5 and use it. They've gotten pretty good at that. So if you're going to go that route, you're going to pay for each of the PCs that you use.
One tool I still love to this day, because Acronis has been one of the few from early on that's been SSD aware, and there's more than that nowadays. But cloning with their disk clone utility is just a really nice experience. I mean, you can clone your hard drive to SSD or SSD to SSD, whatever you're doing, and it does it so quickly. And
it's fast,
so flawlessly.
Yeah. That's good. It's worth a look if you haven't looked at Cronus in a while. It's worth coming back to.
So don't forget World Backup Day, March 31st. Just back up when you hear this. Just go check your stuff. We always tell you to go check your stuff, so please do that. Hang out at homeservershow.com/forums, and those guys are always finding stuff like Acronis on sale, and they'll post it and they'll let you know. So check that out. So something hit the wires this week, and I thought it was really cool because I've always been a big fan. I was first in line for this one, and I hope I'm first in line for the next one. It's the Amazon Echo. All 3 of us have one, and they came out with the little baby Echo Dot. I think it's called a Dot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to still have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi connectivity, but what sold me instantaneously is it has an audio output cable. Now, friends of the show will know that I've had my Alexa apart, and I've traced down the wiring for the output, found it. I just had never had the cojones to tap into it and see if I could run that into my home audio system. But now I'm there. I can't wait to have that as a source in my home audio system. You got multiple zones all over your house, and you've got sources. You could use radio or XM or whatever you want. And now I'd like to have that, and I've got it by voice. Just Alexa, play Dave's awesome 80s playlist, and she'll say, "Okay, Dave," and then boom, done. Did you guys sign up for a Dot?
Yeah, no, I'm in. When's your ship date?
No clue.
Confirmation. I have an April 27th arrival date at this point. I'm hoping, with the Echo, they move those up a little bit.
I think I got you beat. I think I got April 6th or 9th or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I had to get home and then use, the Dot required the Echo to order.
That was a little weird.
Yeah. So, I bought 2, and both of them are March 31st.
Oh, nice.
Oh, you're gonna get it first. I'm all in with this thing. I definitely am excited about getting it, but for entirely different reasons than you. I could care less about the audio output. I have, because I've been experimenting with, the Chrome audio, and I got Sonos and all that. It doesn't, so the audio output portion wasn't exciting to me. It's more of the home control and all the other stuff that I really got used to the home control. And to get that into another room, because I don't need the speaker, so to get that into another room is just outstanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do love listening to music with my playlists on this thing, so it's awesome. I'm kind
of hoping to make mine part of the podcast, so that from time to time it's going to get plugged into the board.
Yeah, with that audio out cable, there's no limits now.
It's going to be down here in the studio, and I'm not particularly interested in it listening to the podcast. If we want to invoke it, I'll say something. So we're not going to try and wire it up.
She will. She will listen. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to tell Alexa to hang up on you, Jim. That's.
It'll be interesting, and so we'll try and find. Of course, with Home Gadget Geeks, we're going to want to find ways to include. Maybe we'll have we get that email every month that has, or every week that's got the updates to the Echo. And it might be nice just to put a segment in where we highlight those and then talk about them on the show. be a nice little segment to add in. So pretty cool. Mike, you said you also bought the tap too, and
Yeah, I
why?
did.
I didn't see a huge use case for it, but why for you?
The main reason I bought it was mainly to bring to work because during lunchtime I usually sit in my office and I try to listen to something, either Audible or something like that. And I have kind of a really crap speaker at the office right now, so I needed to get some type of Bluetooth speaker. So I figured when I saw this, why not? Because then I could benefit from some of the other features and voice activation that I can get from the Echo. Obviously, I'm not going to put Office control into my into work or anything like that, so I'm not going to be using that feature. But you can use some of the other tools that are in there. So I'm excited about getting it, and it's going to solve a problem I have and just give me some additional capabilities that I wasn't really planning on getting, but now I can.
When you said that in pre-show, because I asked you that question, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't see a use in it. And then you said work, and I thought, oh, of course, it's a perfect location for work because you don't want to listen in all the time, right? I mean, you want to be able to go over in there and invoke it when you're ready. So that's a great use case. So I have to agree with you. Now I'm thinking. Now I have an Alexa or Bluetooth kind of brick that I took to work. It's got an audio input in, and I pair that with the phone, and I get a similar, with Siri and stuff. I can get a similar experience. But certainly, if you're not running a Bluetooth speaker in your office, that'd be a great use case.
I like the fact. Well, I like the fact that I don't have to pick up my phone. Right.
Right.
I'm in the kitchen. I can just say, I was playing when I said Dave's awesome 80s playlist, but I do have an 80s playlist, and I can say, you can literally say, Alexa, play a playlist, and she'll say, which one? And you'll say, 80s. Boom, it's done, and she's playing it. So I want that in every room. Honestly, I'd love to have it. I listen to the podcast like in the bathroom when you're like prepping in the morning or something, or you listening to music. I think that's pretty awesome.
The tap comes in actually because with its portability and that little silly looking rubber band thing that goes around it so that you can bring it with you. I think that's got some interesting use cases for the garage, for work, for bringing it to a friend's house.
The garage for sure. I put a Chromecast out there, but I was differentiating Alexa with the Chromecast is because I don't have to pick up a phone. I can just tell her what to listen to. Now I don't mind sending a podcast from the phone to the Chromecast because I like the fact that I can select an individual Chromecast or I can select all of the Chromecasts as a group, and it goes throughout the house. So. Really interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and I know Jim's going to have it on his show as the interviewee. So we'll have the dot
later in April.
Yeah,
later in April when it comes out, we'll talk a ton about it on Home Gadget Geeks for sure.
Yeah. So we're talking a little bit about audio, and that's going to lead me into I've got Home Server Show's got a new headquarters, so I definitely think Meetup 2016 is going to start at the new Home Server Show HQ, and I was thinking I've got a few requests lately. People will ask me, do you have a Patreon? Dave, do you have a Patreon account? Do you have a Patreon account? And I'm like, no, never really got into that. Never really looked into it. So I started looking into it, and I was thinking maybe one of the rewards of a Patreon account would be the private tour of HSS HQ if you come to Meetup. We've done that before. Folks that have come to Meetup, I've prearranged with them, and they've been able to do a private tour of the headquarters. See where we podcast and see the chair that I get to see Jim in. And then we'll tour Jim's bedroom. He'll have an official bedroom at the Home Server Show Manor. But I was thinking about doing that. But, okay, the new headquarters, I've got in the basement, I've got a rack area. So everything comes in. It's a brand new telecom rack, 23-inch rack, where everything's going to get mounted up. And I've already started I've got some other, like, I'm not going to mount servers in there. I'm not going to convert my stand-up server to like a 4U, rack server. I'm just not going to do that. I've got shelves I can put these things on. I'm not going to fork out the money, the big bucks for, a big 2U battery backup system. I'm not. I've already bought stuff. They're sitting there, and they're on a rack system. They look great. They work. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. But I like the fact that I can rack my switch, and then I can rack my patch panel and all that good stuff. And my whole home audio is now racked, so I can do that as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to look into some different whole home audio, like maybe a Savant or something, something like that. So maybe we'll talk about that later when we get into that. So Jim, I haven't moved in yet. We're still at the old HQ, as you can notice back here. But I've turned up the internet, and I tweeted about that the other day. I've got is it 300 down? I think it's 300 down. No, wait.
Nice.
75 down. I didn't go to the next step. 75 down, and it was like, I don't even remember. I'll have to look back through the tweets, but it was a decent amount of speed up, like 10 to 12 megs, maybe
probably
13.
15.
13, yeah.
Something like that.
So it was a decent amount of speed. And also, I now have a cap. So I've never had that before.
Wow.
I have a 300 gig monthly.
Do they actually enforce it? Because I do too, but Cox doesn't enforce it, right? I mean, they send me nasty little notes when hey, you're getting close, and we've developed some tools to tell. It's so passive aggressive. I mean, right. It couldn't be more passive aggressive from a company. It's like, hey, we don't technically have caps, but you're getting close to the one that we think you should have.
Right. No, they told me. I asked them though when I was activating it. For some reason my modem would not activate online the easy way, right?
So what do they do if you reach them?
I have no clue. Send me an email. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
So I put a post in the forums. I thought, well, I better watch this because I have no idea. I literally have no clue how much data we use every day. I have no idea. I mean, because we're Netflixing. I'm YouTubing all the time. I'm doing this. I download stuff all the time. I don't track it. So I've got pfSense. I was like, I better get pfSense back out, guys. And I fired that up. It's my router right now. And I am trying to look into some bandwidth checking. I put a post in the forums, and the guys were real helpful coming back and telling me, here, try this, try this, try this, try this. And then finally someone said, hey, man, Cox measures that if you just log into their panel. It'll be like, great. Or Xfinity. And I said Cox, but Comcast. So I guess I'll log in and see how much data I've used. But I was all excited about using pfSense again and kind of being geeky.
Now they tell you
call it Linux, right?
They have pretty good dashboards. They got pretty good dashboards now. That'll tell you.
Okay. So they'll probably be getting on to me and telling me to.
Now's your chance to set up Sophos, Dave, instead of pfSense since you're moving into a new house.
It's
Let's get that controversy going
again.
You know how much I love that one.
It's a matter of bandwidth, not necessarily internet bandwidth, but bandwidth here, trying to get things rolling. I still want to do Sophos. I love the idea of that product. I really do.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to look at it more seriously the first time I have to route a port through pfSense. I know I'm going to hate it again.
Well, I could spend a whole show talking about Sophos, so don't get me started.
Okay. File that away, and we will talk Sophos, because I have yet to route ports through my pfSense. And you know what I've been thinking about is Synology owes me a review unit of their new router, the RT1900 AC. And I really want to get my hands on this router. It's $150, and it looks like, disk station manager if you've ever been around the Synology, and I really think I would like that because I know my way around the Synology OS, and I think it would integrate nicely. You know how the NAS can like use the router and map ports in and out. You just say surveillance station go, and it'll map your ports. So I think I would enjoy that if.
It's got a lot of the same apps and features that are in
Yes.
their Synology
It's
NAS
got
units.
parental controls too, so I
Parental
think that I would like
controls,
that.
VPN, all kinds of stuff in there that you can.
All right, let's look at it because I mean I'm gonna search here while we're going. RT19. You just gotta type RT19 and it comes up. Wow, I do not see any, and there's nothing that's prime. And the one from Synology is 201.99. Seriously? No, this is sold by someone else. $150 plus $8 shipping. So I could get that one. I wouldn't mind that one. So I'm interested in that. Maybe get a review going of that. And you said VPN. I've been more and more. I want to go ahead and reset that back up. And I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but when you get out and about and you feel like you're not in a secure position, VPN back into your system and use that for your access. Mike?
I'm on VPN probably 12, 13 hours a day. That's all I use. So the minute I walk in the door at work, I'm hooked into my VPN, and then when I leave, I disconnect. I mean, it's critical to me, and I actually, after a bunch of gyrations, actually ended up using the one in the QNAP. It works really, really well, and it took about, I don't know, maybe 3.5 minutes to set up.
I did basically the same thing. I had a bunch of trouble getting a VPN into the PF Sense, and then finally I just routed through it. I said, just send the ports to the Synology. You already got an account there. You just flag it for VPN and then set up your VPN. You're done. I found it to be super easy with an iPhone. I've tried it with Android. I can't remember how my luck was with there, but I mean, you can't go wrong.
Android is a little weird. I've done it on both because I have I run a mixed environment, and there's a workaround to do it in Android that's pretty easy. But basically, you got to get the file into the phone to be able to import it. The iPhone, you go through the convoluted iTunes, but it's just a matter of dragging the files into the OpenVPN file section of iTunes and hit the sync button and you're done. So it's they're both peculiar, and they're both it's more difficult than it should be on either one. But it's once you do it once, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about that more, and make sure we talk about that in the forums. It's a great topic for security, peace of mind. I fired up a Disk Station 415 as my surveillance station. This is at my new house, which I am not living in, but I've got it under surveillance. So I now have got the internet running. Prior to having internet running, I had everything going, and I had cameras, here and there because I'm not there. So I would like to have some sense of security. If someone does break in, at least I can get a nice pretty picture of them and send it to the cops. But now I can view it live if I needed to. And using surveillance stations, Synology, you can't beat that product. And I thought I would give a quick shout out to the forums, IT Geeks from the forums, always out there and participating. He had some Synology licenses. Don't tell Synology. But he sold them to me, and I plugged them in, and they work great. So I can a whole stack of cameras. I'm just waiting to fire everything up and have everything really official. Right now some of the cameras are just sitting on counters, because nobody's at the house.
I'm
looking
kind
at
of
them.
interested to see how many cameras you're going to be able to pump through that thing, because I've been watching the the CPU requirements. I'm running mine off of a VM, which is the host is a Core i7, and that thing with running 9 cameras is just almost maxed out. Its allocation of CPU power. So I'm really curious how a Synology which is significantly less power is going to actually keep up with that whole stream.
Yeah, I've seen that before, and I've seen that with Blue Iris, how they're always advocating, the most horsepower possible, and
Right, I believe that.
there's got to be some magic in what Synology is doing, and I know that they also take advantage of the multiple streams that can come out of the camera, and I've been playing around with that. I've actually found um, I found a problem with one of the cameras. It's one of the 3K cameras that we're going to talk about later. It doesn't show up very good in the app. So that's what I use the most is the app. I can bring it up and I can see all the little cameras running. And it's got some resolutions or line issues with the app, and I was going to put that in feedback actually and see if I couldn't get them to take a look at it. But we'll talk about some cameras here in a little bit. Now, what I did is I took over my old clunky Wi-Fi system because I've got my brand new Eero, and it's all around me. My Eero, it's fantastic. I love it. But I took over my old 2.4 gigahertz Ubiquiti system, and that's running at the new house just to pull in the cameras, and it's doing the job that it needs to do. And I've got, in a couple of rooms, just I have the access points, not on the ceiling, but just sitting on something. Just bam, sit there, connect to the cameras. Just do your thing. It's working. But I literally cannot wait to unplug my Eeros from this house and take them over to the new house and plop them down and have that super high speed. It's going to be a good day. Soon after we did our podcast the other day with Mr. Jose Ortiz, I did get my Eeros up and running. I soon found out how crappy my Wi-Fi was, and I can't believe I was living with those kinds of speeds. And man, I just looked, and there is another firmware version. I thought I was on 1.04, but now I'm on 1.05. And the Eero feeds that back to you in the app. It's a fantastic app for either iPhone or Android. And you can look at all your devices in the app. You can speed test. You can see the number of connections, which are actually devices connected into your Wi-Fi system. You can do the whole guest network thing. And if you are set up as a router, you can use the app to map ports and do all that kind of stuff. So I am curious about running this as a router, but I'm very well aware that it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that, guys like us, we kind of like to have in our routers. But I couldn't be more happier with the bandwidth and the simplicity of the Eero system. Now, I'll tell you, all of my old Ubiquiti access points were running via Cat5. And I have, on the Eero system, I have 3 access points. 2 of them are hardwired Cat5 into the network and running pretty well full speed. The third one, just doing a test, I tested it as it's pure mesh. So it is just plugged into power, sitting on a table, and that's it. It meshes with the other access points that are Cat5'd in with home runs. So I can go to the room with the access point that is connected via Cat5 and do a speed test. Now the speed test that I'm using, let me fire it up here because it's an Android app and it is called oh my goodness, Wi-Fi speed test. It's a real hard one. It is an Android app, and it does require a server applet. So you have to come to a Windows PC and load a little piece of code, and it listens. It listens for this app, and it does a ping, an upload, and a download. The reason you want to do that is because you want to isolate your internet. Going to speedtest.net is not indicative of the speed of your network. That's just your internet connection. So this thing does really well. It holds all of your data. All of your tests are in here. And it actually, I can see where I tested the old SSIDs, and I tested the Airport Extremes, and then I tested the Eeros. So I haven't done this since late February, the 27th, but just taking one here, Eero, 208 megabits per second down, 208 megabits per second up. Now, when I went to the Eero that is meshed into the network, meaning it does not have a Cat5 run back to my main switch, I was getting 59 megabits per second. So more than halved. And the reason is they say, Eero has said in their code, they do not have both of the radios turned on. We talked about this in the last podcast. So they're supposed to be able to use one radio from the access point to talk to devices, phones, computers. They're supposed to use a second radio to talk to the mesh, to phone home to the network. Right now, they're not doing that with both 5.8 gigahertz radios. So if you are connected to that access point with a device at 5.8 gigahertz, that mesh is going to be talking 2.4 gigahertz back and forth. You're not going to get full speed. They do not have that turned on right now. So that is something that I'm looking forward to, actually. And obviously they're honing this process. Maybe there's some things they need to work out. But as a home run, I couldn't be any happier than with these speeds. Now, Mike, do these speeds sound normal? Do they sound good? 208 megabits per second? That's from a phone.
I know. It's really hard to judge that because the way you're testing it is different than I tested, so we can't compare apples and apples. It sounds pretty good. I would certainly be concerned about the drop in the mesh, but I think there's, besides the second radio not enabled, the distance between mesh points is also a concern. At least my experience shows that, it depends how far your mesh is, especially if you're bouncing. If they're all connected to, Cat5, Cat6, it's less critical because you've got the radio overlap. But it's a little more challenging because you get some degradation as you get further and further out. It's a little more challenging when you're relying on a hop. So it might, I don't know how far you've got that third one put.
I'm stretching it, Mike. I tried to make it conform to my house.
Sure.
And I was honestly worried because it does a check. When you turn it on, you say, okay, it's looking for that access point, and it tests for you, and it will tell you if it's too far. It's going to say, yo, you're putting it way too far for this product to work correctly. You need to move it closer.
I think there's a difference between working correctly and working to your satisfaction.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but I mean, do you want maximum smoke or do you want it just to be functional? So it depends on really what you want. As you get further down the mesh stream and you got it attached to a media streamer or something like that, that's going to make a difference. So it's just something to be cautious about. I will try and test if you can send me that, or I guess you're going to put it in the show notes, but if you can send me that utility, I have several Android devices. I can actually test it exactly like you do and bounce it off of my open mesh setup, and that will give us a better perspective, in terms of performance.
Okay. I'm going to
Because
put that
I can't relate to your numbers just yet.
speed test. I'm going to put that in the show notes.
Okay.
And everybody will be able to take a look at that at your leisure as well. And I just want to follow up with the Eero that say, the setup was easy. I liked it. It works really good. I have not had any glaring problems whatsoever. And I think for a product launch that they've done it pretty good. And I'm very happy with it. Very happy with the speeds. And at least I can connect to it. The older Ubiquiti product, I was not able to connect to it with this phone. And I know we've kind of gone back and forth on Ubiquiti and the type of access point that I have, which is super old and is super junky. And compared to their new stuff is some really good stuff. And I know that because a lot of people have told me so. And I appreciate that. I really do. All right. We'll talk more when they release new features, and obviously we'll talk more about the upcoming release of Luma. I'm really excited about that one too because it's very affordable. You can pre-order that now, and stay tuned. You're definitely going to hear more about Luma in the coming weeks. Cameras. So, Mike, I'm getting really hoarse, but we talked about a Reolink camera, and we talked about an Amcrest camera. And what really got me with these cameras, Mike, was they were higher resolution cameras than I've ever experienced before. Right. The biggest resolution camera I've ever purchased has been a D-Link, which was pushing about 720p. These guys are pushing 2048 by 1500, give or take a few pixels. It is a fantastic picture. So I couldn't wait, Mike. I picked up the Amcrest 3 megapixel bullet, and I picked up the Reolink. I think it is a 410 4 megapixel 1440 by 2560. It's also a bullet, and I picked up both of those cameras. And what I did is I picked up a PoE switch as well, and I switched it into my network sitting back here, and then I zip tied both of these cameras to tripods, and I sat them out here in front of me, virtually like on top of each other. They were like at perfect angles, so I could do a compare. And the Reolink is an 80-degree camera angle. The Amcrest was a 70-degree camera angle. The Amcrest had a little different resolution, but the picture quality was almost perfect. I mean, it was just like the Reolink. It was a really good look at it. The Reolink, you could tell it was a little wider. You could see more periphery on the sides. Not a whole lot. I mean, we're talking an extra 10 degrees, but it's still nice to get a nice, wide, high-resolution picture, especially if you need to play that back and zoom in. Now, the cool part about this Reolink camera is $80. I mean, $80. The Amcrest was, I think, $90. So, just very, very affordable cameras. Now, we can argue all day long, but I want to warn you, listening out there, if you don't like Foscam cameras, don't buy one, because these are Foscam cameras. I have an email from Foscam.
Yeah.
And they said, "How are you enjoying your purchase?" And I'm like, I purchased a Reolink. Hello. So they are Foscam.
You got that on the Amcrest or the Reolink? Because Amcrest is coming from Foscam. The Reolink, I'm not sure does.
Man, I put these two cameras side by side, and if they're not coming from the same factory and the same die, I'll be a monkey's uncle. They are.
Oh, they are, yeah.
So similar. Now, here's the thing: is I loaded the Reolink and it was really easy. They give you a piece of software, and you fire up the software, and you say discover, bam, and it finds that MAC address, and you say that's my camera right there. You name it, you put in the admin and password, and it pops up the video right on your screen. So I played with that for a little bit, and I dug out the Amcrest. Now the Amcrest didn't have quite as much documentation. It was just a camera in a box, basically. And I got it out, and I'm like, man, this thing looks the same. It's acting the same. It booted up the same. And I thought, let me just fire up the Reolink software that came with the other camera. Fired it back up, hit discover, and the Amcrest camera came up. It found it. And I looked at the MAC address, and then the first, 3 octets of the MAC address indicate the manufacturer's serial number. They were the same. So the Reolink and the Amcrest camera both had the same originating MAC address. Of course, they had different ones because every single one has a different, last 3 octets. And it found the camera. I assigned the name, called it Amcrest 1, put the username, password in there, and it popped right up on the software. And that's when I messaged you. I'm like, have you tried this software? This is amazing. For free crap, it was really a pretty good piece of software.
Yeah, you obviously you have the Reolink 410, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Because you mentioned viewing angle. The 410 has got or the 411 actually has a 100-degree viewing angle. So when you have those.
Yeah, no, the 411 is that.
That's got the optical zoom.
It's got that little, like a surface mount kind of camera, isn't it?
No, it's just a larger version of the 410.
Okay.
It's twice the size of the 410 though, because it's got the optical. It has a 4x optical zoom in there, so there's actual optics in there, not just digital zoom. And it does a really, really good job with that, the autofocus, and to be able to adjust almost from a wide lens to, a zoom in shot. It's pretty good for that. But it's the size, shape, and performance of the 410 is just awesome.
Yes, I agree. I had never. This is my first outdoor, bullet camera purchase. I've never gone down this route before. And just to follow up to your previous question, I searched through my Google Mail, and the Foscam email came for the Amcrest camera. So you were correct. That one for sure. There's no doubt about that. It's it's a secondary channel of Foscam, which Foscam does this a lot. They probably have 20 different camera manufacturer labels that they sell under.
I actually never heard of Amcrest until I got an email from Foscam saying, "Hey, we got these on promo." And I don't have the outdoor cameras for Amcrest. I have the indoors. So I got this email saying we got these deals on some 1080p indoor cameras, which is not as easy to find as they should be. So I clicked on it, and I think it was, I want to say, $79, $69 or $79 for the indoor, and it was through Amazon, but only through their promotional link. Otherwise, it was $20 more, buying it straight out from Amazon. So I ended up picking up. I just got my 3rd one in this morning, actually.
Nice. I couldn't be more impressed with the quality of this camera. Either one. I'm just going to throw it out there. Either one. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Now the Reolink, I will give you this. The Reolink, they're both PoE cameras. So coming out of the base, there is an Ethernet female jack where you plug in. I'm getting tweeted. Where did the chat go? I'm not sure.
I'm in chat. It seems to be working just fine. I'm chatting with Rennie.
Yeah, let me.
I can't see chat at all. So
it was Tony Rayner asking where chat was.
Oh, he just maybe he couldn't find it, but it's there. Yeah, there.
Okay. the Reolink camera, what I was trying to say, it has PoE. It also has, I don't know how and why this is hanging off of the back, but there's a reset button. So, and I'm just assuming that if I'm putting this like on the eave of a house, that's going to be wired to the inside.
Yeah, there's a
in
couple
the
of ways to
attic,
do
there's
that.
a reset button. I don't.
Well, I guess it depends on where you mount it. I actually mounted mine on the eave, and I actually mounted it in I used a junction box. So I brought the Cat 6 cable out through my attic into the junction box, terminated it, and then brought the pigtail into the junction box and sealed it all up that way. So if I ever have a problem with the camera and I for some reason need to do a reset, all I got to do is pull the lid of the junction box off and just hit the reset, or do it from the software if that works.
Mm-hmm. So neither one of these come with any type of PoE power device. Now the Reolink did come with a power brick. So that's how I first tested it. Is I just plugged it into power and hooked it into it, and it works fine. So then I bought a switch as well. I want to tell you about that. It's a TrendNet 5-port gig PoE with a 1 gigabit, another gigabit port as uplink. That's a non-PoE. So you can run 5 PoE, or actually 4 PoE devices and 1 gigabit uplink.
I think you have the same switch I have then, or one of them. Yeah.
It's like a $70 little. It's a little baby switch, little desktop, and I chose this because I found a lot of switches out there that were 100 meg on their PoE, and I wanted gig, and I for sure wanted a gigabit uplink to get into the switch, because we're pulling, this is a 3 megapixel and a 4 megapixel camera. You hit the stream on a couple of these, you're going to saturate a 100 meg network pretty quickly, and I want to be just gigabit Ethernet all around. And I found that this switch worked fantastic. I couldn't be any more happier.
Yeah, it's actually a nice little switch, fanless. I actually have two. They make a couple of variations to that. The one that you bought, I actually like the best, and I actually have that mounted in my attic in the garage, so I can port access points and PoE cameras right to there, and just got that one line coming into the house. The other one actually has 4 and 4, which doesn't help me at all.
Right. Yeah, the 4 and 4 is $85.
Yeah, that was the first one I bought, and at that time that was the only one I actually found in my search, so I ended up getting that one, and I obviously don't use the other 3 of the 4 data ports, but the PoE section is basically the same.
I thought I would need more PoE ports until I looked at the 8 PoE switch, and it was $200. And I'm thinking, 2 of these other ones are only 140. Right. Now, granted, that takes 2 gig switched ports out of your main network. That's something else to plug in. That's another failure point. But in the end, I was just testing right now. There's a 16-port PoE, $320. That's an intense.
Actually, there's a couple choices that have come up in your forums. There's some guys listing a couple of good choices. I think one of them was a Cisco box, and there's a couple other variations that were put out there that are gigabit switches that were pretty nice. But it all depends how you break it up and how you want. Part of the issues I've seen with some of the larger switches has been some of them start to get some pretty bulky powered bricks. Some of them have fans. There's all kinds of side effects as you get larger and larger, especially if it's a PoE plus compatible switch. Because now you're talking about
it's pumping a lot of power,
much more
and
power.
amperage.
So up to 30 plus watts per port. So it starts to get pretty hefty. So I kind of like the idea of breaking it up a little bit if you need to put one switch to handle the outside, one switch to handle the inside.
I have both of these camera manufacturers, Amcrest and Reolink, whoever's making them, they also have a wireless version. So there's a nice little stick antenna that will hook into your Wi-Fi network. And I was kind of curious about taking a look at one of those. Mike, have you ventured into that land yet?
I haven't ventured into the Reolink land. I've ventured into the new Foscams, which are not quite as high as these, 2500 Reolinks, but there's sort of a nice hybrid at 1080p or something along that lines. So I got a couple of those that I'm going to actually put in my back patio. One I have mounted, the other one I'm still waiting for the electrician to show up to give me power. Because even if they're wireless, unfortunately, you gotta put power to them somewhere.
You got to get power to them. Yeah, that's always kind of a feather in the cap of those manufacturers like Netgear who have the Arlo cameras. But I was always kind of leery about those because that's a cloud-only option. If I could only accept a cloud-only option, I would have like a Netgear Arlo or whatever, someone else is going to offer, like if D-Link comes out with something.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm as concerned with the cloud-only option, other than, I'm not convinced that the amount of resolution and stream is going to go up to the cloud as much as we can put to a local recorder. So, there's a quality difference, I'm sure. But they're the expense of those things. I mean, you can buy 2 or 3 Reolinks for one Arlo.
It's true. I mean, yeah, a 4-camera pack can be $500 something bucks. But remember, you're not having to buy a NAS or a workstation. I mean, you talk,
True.
$400, $500 for a four drive Synology or QNAP.
Well, and hopefully you're not buying a NAS just for your cameras.
True.
So I mean, I guess it depends. Everybody has a their own particular use case, but the idea is to exploit what you got. And if you've got storage, which I'm assuming everybody listening to this has got, 800 terabytes and up. So it's you want to fully exploit what you got and handle, make use of that storage.
Or you could always do this. You've got a NAS right now, and you've always wanted to upgrade it. You really have wanted to upgrade it. So you buy a new one using the homeservershow.com Amazon link, homeservershow.com/Amazon. And then you use the old one as your recorder and the new one as your NAS.
I go through that same kind of self-justification just about every other day.
You're like, you know what? I could get away with it if, right? That's what I've done. So I've got one dedicated to it, and it also takes, in the middle of the night, it takes backups from the other NAS. So that's what they do. I don't know what else to tell you, fellas. I'm digging this camera thing, and I bought 5 licenses for Synology, and it comes with 2, so that's 7, if my math is correct. And I hope that I found a spot for about like 12 cameras. But granted, that's always your first run. You're like, camera here, camera here, camera here, camera here. And then you add all that up. It's like, ooh, that's $4,600. Okay, take this one out, take that one out. How many cameras do you have, Mike? Give me an outdoor and then give me an indoor.
I have 10.
10. And this is all running on Blue Iris?
Yeah.
And is this Blue Iris you can actually run for free, right?
There's a trial version, but it time expired, so you really have to buy it, and you got to buy the mobile app is separate. It's not a super cheap proposition. I believe the app is around $59, and you got to spend $10 on the mobile app.
Okay.
So you're going to be about $70 into the process when you're done, but you can go out 50 cameras or more. So you've got some leeway to do whatever you need, and the tunability is phenomenal. That's where for me, that's where I've seen the biggest, benefit. Because if you've played with motion sensing at all, or you know how temperamental that can be, and for reasons I can't entirely technically explain, the Blue Iris software manages that much better. So the way it handles motion sensing gives you alerts, false alerts, periodically, but it interprets the actual amount of movement, and it won't start recording until there's actually somebody there. So I get maybe at the most one recording per day that's false alarm. The rest are all legitimate. So I really like the fact that I'm not just recording a bunch of garbage.
That's true. That's something. It's huge because even just changing from dusk to dawn can set off some of those stupid cameras, and you get
these don't trip. It doesn't trip at all with Blue Iris going, with moving trees, with going from light to dark. I actually have to walk in front of it, and it didn't require all that much tuning. I mean, probably 80% of what I've got right now. Almost all the indoor stuff was out of the box. I mean, it took the defaults. The outdoor stuff I did have to tune to prevent, recording a bunch of shadows. But, after spending countless hours on other cameras and software and NVR combos, I can tell you that this is a whole lot easier. We have installed recently at work 4 separate NVRs in 4 facilities with a total of well over 120 cameras, and I can't tell you the time we spent trying to get motion sensing to work, and none of it works right. Compared to this, it's like night and day.
Maybe it's time you introduced a little Blue Iris to those guys.
Yeah.
Well, I can also tell you on a Synology NAS system, it does come with 2 free licenses for 2 cameras. And each license thereafter, each camera is $50 a pop. It's not cheap.
No, it's not. I mean, but after 2 cameras, you've paid for the Blue Iris, the mobile app, and
Yeah.
So it depends. I mean, of course, with something like Blue Iris, you've got to put it on something. You have to have a PC. You have to have a VM. You have to have something to run it on. It doesn't, versus the Synology setup where, you can run it right off the NAS. You don't need any additional hardware.
It does have nice apps as well. So something to consider. Jim, you got any questions? You about ready to invest in a new box and get some cameras?
I haven't been. We're going to move in a year, and I've just not been bit by that bug. Mike said it early in the show. I've been a late adopter on some of these things. So probably about the time you guys get sick of all this talking about this stuff, I'll be like, hey, look, I got my first 5 cameras.
Can you believe these cameras? These
are awesome. Why have we not been talking about these things?
Like, Jim, we have 8K cameras now.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't. We're moving in a year. We're going to move. And so I've been kind of holding off on that. I'll probably get into that in the next place. So, no, we've been while you guys were talking about cameras, I guess behind the scenes in the latest Windows 2012 update, it broke CrashPlan on the server. So if you're running a 2012 box and you're keeping your servers up to date, Rennie has been saying that it broke it. It does look like it's broken on there, and then Microsoft doesn't, or CrashPlan doesn't plan to fix it because they've never supported CrashPlan on 2012. It's worked. They've never supported it. Microsoft is not making comments. So it's early. I'll have to monkey around with it. But when we think about CrashPlan, a lot of us, that's a pretty fair guess to think that quite a bit of us are running CrashPlan on our 2012 boxes.
Oh, put it in a VM and run it off of there.
You could. There's some trickery you could do for sure to make it work. So in my situation, I have about 800 gig backed up now to CrashPlan. That took a month maybe to get there, and you're like, oh, now I'm gonna have to do some. If I'm going to change, right, to something, do something different, now I'm going to have to get it reassigned and, all the stuff that you have to do to jump those hoops so you don't have to re-upload everything again. But that's a little disappointing. I'm not going to lie. That's kind of been one of those things. And I had been running CrashPlan on the 2016 box. I'm imagining that's not going to work anymore either. It wasn't working great to begin with, but I imagine it's not going to work. So, I don't know. Maybe those days are done.
Yeah, there's a post out in the forums about someone troubleshooting this very problem.
Yeah.
There's not an answer yet.
Rennie's been all over it. He and I have been chatting while you guys were talking about. You were talking
Rennie,
about Cam, right?
Yeah, head out there to. I just searched CrashPlan 2012 and it came up with a lot of stuff.
You were talking earlier about Acronis and how they had their period where they kind of abandoned stuff. That's kind of the impression I had of CrashPlan for the last year or so. I kind of stopped using it, probably somewhere around a year and a half ago, and just went a different direction for just, it just seemed like, I don't know, I just got the impression that they were, not wanting to expand the use of the product.
Yeah.
They stopped, kind of widespread support for different platforms. The version they had for the Synology and the QNAP was kind of convoluted. It just didn't seem like they wanted to put the effort in it. It's probably a tough business to be in.
Yeah, I don't think the client has gotten much of an update in. I mean, they've done little things to it, but it looks exactly the same as it's looked for 5 years. So maybe you're right. And I had just come off an annual and gone month to month. I was kind of like, well, I think I'm going to go month to month and kind of, it's just one of those things. So
I hate to admit it, I'm shopping too. I turned off my 2012 server,
right,
and I guess they would have turned it off for me after an update. So,
right.
I kind of moved photos over to OneDrive, and that was pretty important for me. I need to find a home for my, my kids' video and stuff.
Yeah.
I got it in several places here, and I still have, out on CrashPlan. I still pay for it, so it's still out there. But
well, I had moved all my when I took the 2011 box down. I'd moved all my photos up to MediaFire. I had a ton of space up there, and I just moved them up, and then. I was looking at my Android phone the other night, and I got some pictures on there, and I got some pictures on my iPhone, and they're syncing various places, but it's one of those every once in a while you kind of you got to kind of gather them all back together again,
and sheep running loose, and like, yeah, come on over here.
You kind of want that in a different spot than you want where it's than the camera roll, so that it's not the camera roll's not affecting it, and it's trying to sync to your newest phone, and
you got to clear the camera roll out.
Yeah.
I try to do it once a month. Is clear it out. I go out to the OneDrive web portion, and it's a pain in the butt, let me tell you. And then I create folders, and then I just start dragging and moving things around. And then once I've got all those folders in the camera roll, then I drag them out of the camera roll, put them in the 2016 folder, and then they're archived for good.
It's not a great experience on the web. I mean, moving files around on the web just not a. It's not great, and I'd rather have that sync locally, move them into a local folder, and then send those to cold storage somewhere. Because for the most part,
What I've been trying to do is I do have one of my Synology boxes syncing. It's kind of dangerous because if I delete on the Synology box, it immediately goes out to OneDrive, and he said delete, and it starts deleting shit. I mean stuff, So you got to be careful.
Yeah, you do.
But if you're the only one that can get into that box and you somewhat trust yourself, I was able to do all that manipulation locally on a Windows device, and it works out really well. I've got the entire OneDrive synced to that NAS, and then I use it on this Mac back here, and it works. It works.
Well, I've been trying to pull those, I put all those files up on MediaFire a while ago, and they went pretty fast. Syncing them back down has just taken forever. And there's not we're talking under 200 gigs, so it's not like it's an enormous amount, but the speed has just been terrible. So I've been letting them drip, letting them drip in. But it is one of those things, you don't want to lose that. And, it's like, oh, all right, I need to make sure I'm going to keep them on MediaFire for a while, just in case I miss something. But I was going to bring those down and move them over to the 2012 box because I hadn't updated that with the pictures yet. I'd moved all the podcasts over, and I got about 800 gig of podcast files, and I'd wanted to get those kind of taken care of first, and then I kind of forgot about pictures. And one day I was checking backups. I'm like, oh, where the hell is my pictures? Oh my God. Oh, that's right. I put them on MediaFire. And you have that kind of moment of.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to get those back down and moved, and then that always brings up that discussion. Okay, what do I have on my phones? And I've been double camera rolling those at some points to both Google and to OneDrive. And then I got a notification that my iCloud was getting full, which I know it's trying to back up all my pictures. And I got video. We skied this weekend. I got a bunch of video that I took that I'm sure is taking up space. So it's a nightmare.
Yeah, camera roll to OneDrive is about the best thing you could ever do. And I keep it as far away from iCloud as possible. But bringing this subject up, and I'll drop this on you, and then we'll let Mike go because he still has 7-hour drive to get home. That last 2 miles in L.A.
Oh God, I hope that's not true. Yeah.
But these guys do go away, and I'm going to give you one URL: copy.com. Remember when we were pimping copy.com?
Oh, yeah, they're gone.
And I was transferring stuff up there, and you go to copy.com, and as of May 1st, 2016, they're gone. I don't know how much data I put up there. Tons of pictures. It was one of my tertiary photo directories, and they're gone.
We had tons of space. They gave away a ton of space in those days, and so yeah, they have not been falling off. I created that cloud storage guide way back when, and they have not been falling off as fast as for a while. Like 2013 or 2014 was a big year. A bunch of them. We lost a bunch of them in the process. Ubuntu 1 died, and there was a bunch of others that died in the process. And this is really the only one in the last year or so.
It's like where like at the Academy Awards, where we honor those who have passed.
I know.
We play some sad music, and we put a slideshow up.
Yeah.
Copy.com. Ubuntu Live. We flash them up there.
They kind of go.
And they poof away.
Yeah.
We still love you. We'll remember you forever. Copy.
I barely knew you. I barely stored files on you.
I barely got my stuff off of you.
Just in time. It's a good reminder. If you had stuff on copy, you might want to go out and take a peek. Dave is right. May 1st is the deadline for that, so you might want to go out and take a peek and just make sure that you still don't have anything out there. There's a couple others. Let me highlight those real quick as we think about the death of some of these. Ubuntu was one of them. Mega Cloud was another one. I guess those are just the two that I have listed here now.
Remember back in the day, HP had a service, and I did a post. I stayed up until like 3 a.m. one night where I tricked my Windows Home Server version 1 to copy files to this HP backup service, and then like 2 weeks later they went belly up. Like, yes, I did this.
Well, and people wonder why we still have, we keep files at home, and this is the exact reason, right? People are like, right. Well, a lot of the free stuff has gone away. Remember we talked about Voila for so long, and
group share, kind of sharing on each other's Voila.
Yeah,
you were like the Voila master.
I love that service.
I was the copy.com master. You were the Voila master.
Yeah, for sure.
Voila. All right, Mike, we're going to get you out of here, but everybody, we'll talk about some more NAS updates next week. Synology's got a brand new beta that you can participate in. Check out that post at homeservershow.com. Okay, all of my properties and stuff I'm trying to get together in one spot. So check this out. Twitter, is at McCabe.io. Website, McCabe.io. YouTube, youtube.com/David McCabe. Facebook, I'm making some changes. I'm trying to get onto the Facebook and be a thing. Facebook.com/McCabe.io.
Which used to be Home Server Show. So
it was very confusing because it was home servers, and people would get lost at home server. So I was like, you know what? I made a mistake day one with all of these services by not branding them as myself, because I didn't know there would be a property beyond Home Server Show, right? What if we launched something different? So we're just bringing it all back together. And this allows me to put more stuff out there on the Facebook and share with you listening more. So get out there, share and like and share and all that good stuff. I'm most proud of my YouTube, Jim. I like my YouTube and I like my Twitter. I'm a big fan of Twitter. And I've been super busy with my house stuff. Otherwise, I would keep shooting YouTube video and making videos. I love doing that, and I'm going to keep doing that. Because like 3 people watched my last video, so love you guys. Love you guys. So
you need to light some more things on fire.
Yes, I need to burn more things, or go to more exotic places like the flamingo and
monkeys.
All right, that's 297. Mike, thanks again. Keep a log of everything that you power up and unbox. We got to have it here on the podcast. Jim, thanks for jumping in here.
You bet, Dave.
Appreciate you. Glad to have you back. Don't
Thanks,
forget
Dave.
the Geeks Network. You bet, Mike. Hey, we'll see you guys out in the forums. Good night.
Good night.
We're done.
Outstanding. Good show.
That was fun. I could talk
it was.
cameras and Wi-Fi all night long.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, me too.
Like it.
All right, guys. Well, I know it's getting late for
Yep.
you guys, and I'm going to get out of here.
Have a good drive. Yeah, I'm
See you,
good.
man.
See you, Jim.
Hey, Mike. Good seeing you, man.
Good night,
Yeah.
YouTubers.
All right.
Thanks for watching. See you in the forums.